Hey everyone, this is Tony Teaches Tech. I'm Tony, and in this video I'm going to show you how to set up a MySQL database for Django and connect it to a Django model, and pretty much how they work together with each other as far as migrations and all that stuff is concerned. So by the end of this video, you should have a pretty good understanding of that. Let me show you what the goal is, the overall goal of this video is, and then we'll get right into it. So right here is a website that I have. It's a WordPress detector. So when you come in here, this is a Django website. When you come in here, search for a website, it'll say if it's running WordPress or not. So google.com is not a WordPress website. TonyTeaches.tech is a WordPress website. So basically the goal is to log in a database, a new database record every time somebody searches for a domain name. I want to log what they search for and whether or not it's WordPress. So very simple concept. Let's see how we do that with Django. So we'll minimize this for now. I'm already logged into my server here, and this is the root of my Django project, and I have my Django app here, the detector app. And if we look in here real quick, we'll see that you see some of these familiar files such as your views, your URLs, and all that stuff. So I'm going to assume that you have some knowledge with Django. You have something set up already that you're going to use, and then you can model it after what we talk about in this video. So the first thing we want to do is do a sudo apt-get update just to make sure we're looking at the latest packages. And then we want to do I'm just going to copy this on my notes over here, sudo apt-get install, sorry about that. I'm going to install Maria database server and lib Maria database client -dev. And that's the reason we need to do those two packages, is because that's the database type that we're going to be using. You could do vanilla MySQL as well, but my preference is Maria database. So that's going to take up 191 megabytes. We will, I'm not sure how quick I think this is a pretty quick install. We'll let that go through and install. But after that's done, we're also going to have to install a Python package that allows Python to communicate with the server, the MySQL server. So looks like this is finishing up here. I am using virtual environments for my Python. I highly recommend the same. I'll have a video about that if you're interested in that. But basically, we're going to have to activate that in virtual environment and then install the package that I'm talking about. So let me activate my virtual environment. I'll do that by sourcing Python 3.8 bin activate. That will probably be something different for you. And then I'm going to use the pip package manager to install MySQL client Python package. So yeah, I think this one's pretty quick as well. So now we have the ability to have a MySQL database. Let's create the database next. So we can log into MySQL with sudo MySQL, MySQL, and then this is the MySQL command prompt now. What I'm going to do is create a user for the database first. So create user, calling my user this. He's going to be able to operate on localhost and identified by my password. Obviously, you want to pick a stronger password than that, but that's what we're going to use for this video. And we're going to grant all privileges on all databases and tables to that user. Okay, and again, this is just for the sake of demonstration. This is not something that I recommend that you do in production websites, but that's what I'm going to give my user the full privileges. And then finally, I'm going to create a database called oitis_database. Okay, and as far as interacting with MySQL directly is concerned, that's all we have to do. Everything from this point forward, we're going to leverage Django models in order to allow Django to create our tables and insert into our tables and update our tables and all that stuff. So we can get out of here, go back to our terminal session here, our regular command prompt, and let's tell Django that we just created that database. So we can do that. Again, we're in here in the root of our Django project. Typically, this is in a subdirectory in a something called settings.py, and in here there's a database section somewhere. Here it is, databases, and by default they're using a local database on your file system. That's just a file which is SQLite. version 3. We want to get rid of these 2 lines and replace it with some information that we just created our database through MySQL. So what is that? What do I mean by that? So in here, and I already have this on the clipboard here, you want to add the following lines based on the information that you created your database with. So if you're using MySQL or Maria database, the engine will be this. And then the name of my database, as you saw, was oitis_database. The user that we created, his name was, or his or her name was oitis. The password was my password. The host is localhost, which means this current server that we're on. And then the port 3306, which is the default port for MySQL. So go ahead and fill out your default database information here in your settings.py file, and we'll go ahead and save that. And now that Django knows where to interact with the database and it has the credentials to do that, let's start talking about Django models. So in my Django app here, in my detector Django app, let's go into that directory. There is a models.py file right here. Okay, and that's where we're going to be defining the model for our database. So let's open that up. And we'll get rid of this comment here. We'll keep the import from DjangoDB import models. I'm going to copy and paste some code in here, and I'll explain it along the way. But again, for your purposes, this will be obviously what you want to do with your website. So basically, we're defining a class. The name of the class is searchlog. It's of type model. Okay, and you can think of this as a table, right? The class corresponds to a table. And then these 3 lines here correspond to, I guess, not rows, columns in your database, right? So different pieces of information that we want to track in the database. So like I was saying, we want to track the URL that the user searches for, whether or not it's WordPress, and then some extra content, some metadata here, the date and time that they search for that. So the URL value is of type character field, and these are all standard Django types, model types. So you can look at the documentation to figure out what the options are for you. So character field, max length 255 characters. So 255 characters for the URL that they type in, up to that amount. Is WordPress. ISWP is WP. This is a Boolean field, so it's going to be either true or false, and the default is false. Okay, and then the search time is of type date time field, and it's going to default to now as the value for that. Okay, so this is basically defining our table structure. Okay, so let's save that. And now that we have that, now that we've created that model, let's move that information to the database. So that's a 2-step process. Okay, so let's go back to the root of our Django project, and there's in the root of your Django project, you have your manage.py file. So let's do Python manage.py make migrations. And what this is going to do, and I'll show you, no changes detected. That's interesting. Let me try make migrations detector. DETECTOR, detector. Oh, that's right. Okay, so I forgot to do this, but no big deal here. If we go back into our settings file, I forgot that we have to install that app. So that was in the oitis directory and then settings.py. You need to make sure that you have, as part of your installed apps, the name of your Django app. So for me, like I said, the name of my Django app is detector, as you saw by the directory that we navigated into. Right here, that's the Django app, not the project, the app that I had created. So now when we do Python manage.py make migrations, it'll look in that folder, it'll see that we defined a model, and then it'll create the model that we defined. So that is literally at this directory. You can see what that looks like. And this is auto-generated code, so there's not much to do in here. But now that this exists, this migration exists for detector, we can apply those changes to the database essentially. And we do that with Python manage.py migrate. Okay, so that's going to go to it's in addition to some other things here, as you can see, it's going to create the table on our MySQL database. And we can see that actually happening. If we go to our MySQL database again, we use the OITIS database, and then we show tables. And remember, this was a couple minutes ago, this was not a database that didn't exist. So Django created all these tables with the migrate command, and then here is our table. So select star from detector, that's the name of the app, and then the table search log, and it's an empty set. I forget, describe. If you do describe detector underscore search log, so you'll see that we have, these are the fields, the ID field, just an auto incrementing ID, the URL, varchar 255 is WP, that's the Boolean field, it's just going to be a tiny int, and then the search time, date time. Okay, so let's now that we have our database table, Django knows about it, our database is all set up, let's work with our model within our Python code within the context of Django. So as a reminder, let's go to our views.py file. So we'll go into the detector section here of our Django app, and then open up the views.py file. And one of my views is the index page. And if basically, without getting too complicated here, if there's a get request happening, that means that the user has searched for a value. And what we want to do is basically at that point save that information that the user searched for to the database. So right here we have we're getting the URL from the get request, and we're defining whether or not it's WordPress based on a call to scan site. So what we can do here right below here is add a couple lines of code, and I will explain what this means. So well, actually, I guess we first have to import that. So bear with me for a second until we get all caught up here with the code, and then I will explain it. So, okay, so right here, first thing I'm going to do is import from the models.py file in this directory, the one that we were working with earlier, import search log. So that's the name of the class that we defined. And I'll show you that again, just in case you forgot. We're importing this class, okay? And then with that, down here, when the user makes a search, we're going to instantiate that class, an object of that class type. We're going to pass in the URL that the user searched for and the result of whether or not the website is WordPress or not. I wrote this function, so I know it returns a Boolean, a true or false, and is WP. So we're going to create that object and then save that object. And when we do the object.save, that's going to insert a row into our database, all done behind the scenes, and save that permanently to our database. So that's how, once you get the infrastructure working for Django models, it's really, really easy to be able to interact with the database. This is just an insert. You can do a lot more. You can do updates, deletes, all that stuff. But just for the sake of demonstration, let's start with something basic like this. Okay, so we'll save that, and I think we're good to go. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I will do a restart of my whole Django site here, and I'm using Emperor. If you want to know how I host my production websites for Django, I'll have a video about that. But I'm not 100% sure if this is necessary or not to make those changes apply to the real website. But just so nothing, just so I don't mess up anything while we're recording this video. Okay, so we'll test this out live, real time. Let's open up our MySQL database. Again, we want to use the OITIS database and then select all from the search log. So there's nothing in there right now. Let's go back to the home page and let's do a search for what's another website. Yahoo.com. Detect WordPress. It says WordPress is not or Yahoo is not a WordPress website. What we care about more than that is whether or not it's saved to the database, and it did not save to the database. So what could the problem be here? Let me see if I can figure this out in real time. Select all from detector. So that should, I went to the wrong website. We have to go to my test.oitis.com, which, let me go to a guest window, test.oitis.com. No, what am I saying? Test.oit.is. Bear with me, we'll get there. Okay, let's try that again. Yahoo.com, detect WordPress. It is not a WordPress website. Let's look at our MySQL database. Select star, there we go. So, I had the wrong URL. The ID, the URL that the user searched for, is it WordPress? No, it's not. That's the 0, and then the time that that they searched for that. Let's do one more. TonyTeaches.tech. Detect WordPress. Waiting. Not sure why it's taking so long. Took too long to respond. So TonyTeaches.tech. Let's just do, is that a problem with my website? Is it online? TonyTeaches.tech. It is online. Let's try it again. TonyTeaches.tech. Okay, something weird. So it worked that time. Let's see what our database looks like. There we go. We got another record in our database. Tony Teaches Tech. It is a WordPress website, and that's the time that we searched for it. Guys, this was a basic introduction into Django models. I hope it was helpful to you. If you have any questions about it, let me know down in the comments below. I'll do my best to help you out. I got plenty of other videos on Django tutorials over here. So if you're interested in this topic, check those out as well. Please subscribe to this channel for more videos like this from me in the future. And if you do, I'll see you in the next one.